Look closely at Caitlin Clark's arm. Those marks are not part of a box score, but they may tell the most important story from Indiana's battle with Chicago. Clark has attempted only 8 non-technical free throws across her last 12 quarters, yet the fresh footage shows scratches running across her forearm. Those marks appear consistent with the grabbing and clawing that happens when defenders lose position and desperately try to recover. And that is why this footage is spreading so quickly. People are not talking only about another deep three or another brilliant pass. They are asking how a player can absorb this much visible contact while receiving so little protection from the whistle. Chicago wanted to make this game physical. Clark answered in the most damaging way possible. She let her basketball do the talking. That wave said more than a post-game interview ever could. Clark looked completely finished with the manufactured drama. But there is one part she cannot simply wave away: the officials repeatedly allowing defenders to hang all over her. Watch the possessions carefully. There are hands on her jersey, arms wrapped around her body, and defenders reaching across her shooting motion. The contact does not happen once. It follows her through screens, drives, and off-ball movement. And far too often, the whistle never comes. This is where one rough game becomes something much bigger. When the same treatment appears across multiple matchups, it stops looking like an isolated mistake. It starts looking like a standard referees have quietly accepted, specifically for Clark. One viral breakdown captured the frustration perfectly. Sometimes the foul is so obvious that everyone in the building reacts before the official finally raises a hand. Now place the visuals beside the statistic. 8 non-technical free throws in 12 quarters. That is nearly 3 complete games of basketball. We are talking about one of the league's most aggressively defended guards, a player trapped near half court, bumped off her driving lane, held through screens, and challenged by multiple defenders on nearly every meaningful possession. Yet her free throw total suggests she is barely being touched. Those two realities cannot comfortably exist together. Either the video is misleading everyone's eyes, or the officiating standard has moved so far against Clark that obvious contact is now being treated as ordinary defense. And once analysts began reviewing the possessions individually, they did not find one questionable call. They found example after example after example. Free throws are not simply bonus points, they are supposed to be the consequence when legal defense crosses into illegal contact. So when a player is visibly grabbed and displaced but rarely reaches the line, the problem is not that she suddenly stopped drawing contact. The problem is that officials have stopped consistently recognizing it. Even more concerning, the physicality appears to be increasing as Clark becomes harder to contain. Defenders are chasing farther from the basket, fighting over more screens and reaching more aggressively when she turns the corner. Normally, increased contact produces more whistles. With Clark, it sometimes appears to produce fewer. That backward relationship creates danger. Once players believe extra contact will be tolerated, normal physical defense can quickly escalate into reckless contact, and the next clip shows exactly where that road can lead. Intent is difficult to prove from one replay, and that distinction matters. But the league does not need to read a player's mind to recognize dangerous contact. If a defender misses the ball and catches an opponent directly in the eye, officials should at least stop, review the footage, and decide whether the play crossed the line. Ignoring it completely sends the worst possible message. It tells every defender that if they cannot stay in front of Clark with their feet, they may be able to recover with their hands. A hold becomes a grab becomes a scratch. Then someone arrives late, catches her near the face, and everyone pretends it is simply the cost of playing basketball. That is not toughness. Toughness is competing through legal contact. What viewers are questioning is why contact with no legitimate basketball purpose keeps escaping meaningful review. This is where the story takes a turn defenders probably did not expect. Clark has not responded by becoming hesitant. She has not stopped driving, avoided screens, or settled into safe possessions to protect herself. She continues attacking the exact spaces where the contact is waiting. Most guards would eventually begin anticipating the hit instead of reading the floor. They would rush the pass, pull up early, or abandon the lane entirely. Clark keeps getting up, running back on defense, and demanding the ball again. That resilience can accidentally hide the officiating problem. Because she does not stay down and create a dramatic scene after every collision, officials may treat the contact as less severe than it really is. Her ability to play through it should not become an excuse to ignore it. And fans argue that one particular opponent has developed a long enough history for these moments to demand closer attention. Carrington's name did not enter this debate tonight. Similar moments involving Clark have been circulating since their previous high-profile matchups, including an uncalled swipe near the face that became one of the most replayed incidents of that postseason. The sequence now feels familiar. Something questionable happens live, the game continues without a serious review. Hours later, slow-motion footage hits social media and viewers see details the officiating crew apparently missed. That growing gap between the live ruling and the replay evidence is damaging confidence in the league. Fans should not need frame-by-frame internet investigations to identify contact that officials standing a few feet away are paid to judge in real time. But while the scratches and missed calls dominate the emotional side of this story, Clark's performance creates an even more astonishing contrast. Teams are applying extraordinary pressure to slow her down, and she is simultaneously producing numbers the league has never witnessed before. Here is the statistic that changes the entire conversation. Caitlin Clark already owns 5 career games with at least 30 points and 10 assists. Every other player in WNBA history combined owns 4. One player has surpassed the entire rest of the league's history. Let that number breathe for a moment. This is not a narrow rookie record or a carefully selected statistic designed for social media. It compares Clark directly with every player who has ever appeared in the league. All of them together? 4. Clark by herself? 5. And she reached that mark while facing defensive attention most guards never see. Teams pick her up early, send a second defender, deny her return passes, chase her through screens, and use physical contact to disrupt her rhythm. She still creates elite scoring and double-digit assists in the same game. That is why the scratches matter beyond sympathy. They show how desperately opponents are trying to interrupt something the record book says they have not been able to stop. The harder teams attempt to turn these games into wrestling matches, the more absurd Clark's production becomes. She is not merely surviving the pressure, she is producing historically through it. This argument does not require claiming Clark should receive special treatment. It requires the exact opposite, the same standard for everyone. Other elite WNBA players deserve the free throws they earn. Physical defense is part of the sport, and hard contact alone is not proof of bias. But when identical actions produce different outcomes depending on the player involved, officiating inconsistency becomes a competitive issue. If a hand on the shoulder affects one shooter's release, it should be judged the same way when it affects Clark's. If an off-ball shove is illegal on one end, it cannot become harmless simply because Clark absorbs it and keeps moving. The question is not whether referees miss calls. Every officiating crew does. The question is why the missed calls around Clark appear so predictable that fans can build entire compilations from a single game. That is the danger of allowing a rivalry narrative to overwhelm the basketball. Carrington is capable of affecting a game with speed, defense, and athleticism, but once every possession becomes about finding Clark, creating contact, or delivering a message, the matchup stops being strategic and becomes personal theater. Clark's answer was devastating precisely because she refused to join the performance. She waved off the confrontation, returned to the offense, and kept producing. Imagine trying to frustrate a player into losing focus only to watch her finish with 37 points, 10 assists, and 8 three-pointers. The physical approach did not remove Clark from the game, it placed her directly in control of it. Every extra bump was supposed to disrupt her rhythm. Instead, it added another chapter to the same storyline. Opponents try to intimidate Clark, and Clark responds with numbers they cannot answer. This is where the public conversation becomes almost impossible to take seriously. When Clark receives very few calls, people say she needs to become stronger and play through contact. When she finally receives the whistles that the footage appears to justify, many of those same voices accuse her of benefiting from special treatment. Both arguments cannot be true at the same time. A player who is regularly held, bumped, and hit during shooting motions should reach the line. That is not favoritism, that is the rulebook working correctly. The real inconsistency is demanding that Clark absorb extraordinary contact, then complaining on the rare night officials actually punish it. Her 13 free throws in one game did not erase the missed calls from the previous 12 quarters. If anything, they showed what her normal totals might look like if the same standard were applied from opening tip to final buzzer. Now put the two sides of this story together. On one side, 8 non-technical free throws in 12 quarters, visible scratches, off-ball grabs, contact near the face, and repeated possessions that fans believe deserved a whistle. On the other, 5 career 30-point 10-assist games, more than the rest of WNBA history combined. That contrast explains why this story is so powerful. The treatment is becoming more physical, yet Clark's production is becoming more historic. Defenders are leaving marks on her arm, but they are not leaving the result they wanted on the scoreboard. The bruises and scratches reveal the effort being used to contain her. The record book reveals whether that effort is succeeding. Right now, the answer could not be clearer. There is also a consequence that will never appear in the final box score. Every uncalled grab teaches the next opponent something. Coaches study film. Defenders copy what officials allow. If one team discovers it can hold Clark off the ball, scratch across her arm, and repeatedly bump her without consequences, other teams will naturally test the same boundary. That is how isolated contact becomes a league-wide defensive blueprint. The officials do not merely decide one possession when they swallow the whistle. They help define what every team will consider acceptable in the next game. If the league waits until Clark is injured before tightening the standard, it will have addressed the problem far too late. This is why the footage deserves more than a 24-hour social media argument. It should force a serious review of how freedom of movement is being enforced, not only for Clark, but for every perimeter player in the league.
Fans do not expect perfection, they expect a recognizable standard. If heavy contact to the throat or chest is allowed on one possession, a slight arm extension cannot suddenly become an automatic foul on the next. Those contradictions create the appearance that referees are judging the name on the jersey rather than the action on the floor. The league can dismiss one missed call. It can explain another as a difficult angle, but when the same type of inconsistency appears repeatedly, explanations begin to sound like excuses. Clark's supporters are not asking officials to protect her from basketball. They are asking officials to protect basketball from turning into something else. There is a difference between fighting through a screen and clawing an arm. There is a difference between legal body position and an off-ball shove. And there is a major difference between challenging a shot and making dangerous contact near someone's eye. Those lines matter. The league's credibility depends on enforcing them. So, what happened after Caitlin Clark was disrespected, grabbed, and challenged all night? She did not ask the media to fight the battle for her. She did not let the confrontation become bigger than the game. She buried 8 threes, scored 37 points, created 10 assists, and waved away the noise. That is the payoff opponents keep handing her. They want the game to become emotional. Clark makes it mathematical. They give her contact, she gives them points. They try to slow her with bodies. She manipulates the defense and finds another teammate. They attempt to turn the night into a fight. She turns it into another historic line. And now, the images meant to show how physical opponents were with her are circulating beside the highlights showing how completely she outplayed them. The disrespect became motivation, the pressure became production, and the attempted intimidation became free publicity for another unforgettable Clark performance. To be fair, not every hard foul against Clark is intentional. Basketball is physical, scratches can happen during ordinary competition, and one replay angle cannot prove what a player was thinking. It would also be wrong to accuse an entire Chicago roster or the entire WNBA of trying to injure one player. Most athletes are competing hard within a fast, emotional game where contact is unavoidable. But acknowledging that does not require ignoring the pattern. When visible marks, repeated uncalled contact, and unusually low free throw totals all point in the same direction, the issue deserves examination. The league should review the footage, clarify the freedom of movement standard, and apply it consistently before a preventable injury transforms a controversy into a crisis. Accountability does not weaken physical basketball. It protects the difference between hard defense and reckless play. For now, opponents can keep grabbing. They can keep scratching. They can keep hoping the officials allow one more bump, one more hold, and one more possession without a whistle. But Caitlin Clark has already shown everyone what happens next. She gets knocked off balance, gets back up, and attacks again. She sees the second defender and finds the open teammate. She hears the rivalry talk and answers with another deep three. And when the night ends, the marks may remain on her arm, but her name is the one being added to the record book. 5 30-point, 10-assist games, more than the rest of WNBA history combined. That is the part no defender can scratch away. So, do you believe this is simply the WNBA's normal physical style?
That number actually means for a second because it's easy to scroll past a stat like that without letting it land. Free throws exist in this sport because the rule book says a certain level of contact crosses the line into illegal. When a player who gets hit, grabbed, and shoved as much as Clark does is only getting to the line a handful of times across